It's your host Josh here, back with another episode, joined by Alec. As always, Alec. Uh, First of all, great read on Juwan Jennings last week. Were you expecting overall wide receiver one out of him or no?
I was not expecting the 45 or 46 fantasy points that he got. I was expecting like 10 targets, and he definitely well exceeded everyone's expectations.
Oh yeah. He got peppered with targets and 3 touchdown performance. So
Yeah,
great read out of you. We had a couple unlucky ones too. I know Pollard was one that was a little bit frustrating. Bad game script. They also had first and goal from the 1 and didn't hand the ball off. That was frustrating. We had Zamir White, who had, not a great week, but Alexander Madison had a 1-yard touchdown, and so should have been a Zamir White touchdown. We had Shaheed, who dropped or was underthrown and dropped a 40-yard touchdown.
yeah,
So we definitely had some unfortunate misses, but that's why we're back here with more research and more players to start. So we have 6 players here to start. I'm going to give the first one here. And I have Devin Singletary versus the Cowboys. I know this is Thursday night football, and I know that it's going to be prime time, but they're probably going to be in a negative game script, and I feel good about that. Devin Singletary is the only guy in this offense that's even going to touch the ball from the backfield. I mean, Tyron Tracy is not taking any carries, and Singletary had 20 touches last week against a good Browns defense, a very good Browns defense. Ran the ball well. It's clear to me that they want to use him a ton in the passing game, in the running game. He's a bell cow. I mean, the Cowboys have a great pass rush. They're going to be able to get after Daniel Jones. I would expect Singletary to catch between 4 and 6 passes. I really like Singletary here.
Yeah. I like Singletary this week as well, especially if it's PPR. Maybe some check down targets. Malik Neighbors is unbelievable. So this offense actually, and the reason I bring that up is because it elevates their offense.
Oh yeah.
So Devin Singletary, if the wide receivers were Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson, probably wouldn't be a start. But now that they actually have another offensive piece, it makes Devin Singletary a lot more attractive.
Yeah, I think it just requires a safety to be deep at all times, and that means one less player out of the box, which just helps the Singletary stock. I think. I think a lot. But that's who I have for my first one. Send it over to you for your first one here.
Yeah. So my first one, I'm going to go back to the well here on Rasheed Shaheed. If you look at his targets, he had another one in the fourth quarter that he was open as well, and Derek Carr missed him. That touchdown that he dropped, and I guess you can count it as a drop because it hit him in the hands, like in the chest area. He had beat the DB by 5 or 6 yards. Derek Carter underthrew it. I really like him in this offense. The Clint Kubiak offense is great for him just because he creates so much separation. He had 5 targets again last week. He's not going to catch a 70-yard touchdown every week. Right. But if he can get 5 to 6 to 7 targets a game, he's going to catch 1 or 2 for 20 to 30 yards and probably score on one. So I don't know. I like Shaheed this week, especially in Atlanta. Potentially in a negative game script because since it's in Atlanta, it'll just depend.
Yeah. Well, no, I like Shaheed too, and I like it as a bounce back opportunity. He averages like 20 yards a reception. So if you're telling me he's going to get 4 or 5 catches, lock him into my fantasy lineup right now. So this is going to be a difficult one to start. Absolutely. If you have other options, maybe if Rashee Rice is in your flex, do not be starting Rasheed Shaheed over.
No, Rasheed Shaheed's like for the leagues that you have 2 flexes.
Yes, yep, in a 12-man league, or you have AJ Brown or Cooper Kupp or Puka or somebody that's you've been hit by the injury bug a little bit, but I like Shaheed here, similar to Amari Cooper this past week, right? We were on him 2 weeks ago when we thought he was going to play well. He had a dud week and bounced back like we assumed he was going to do the week before. I think this is one that just staying true to Shaheed here and going back to the well one more time, I think is going to pay dividends for us.
Yeah, and I also think it's just the law of averages. He had 0 points last week. He's not going to have 0 points again.
Right.
And also, if somebody dropped him in your league, probably not. But if he is out there because somebody was mad about the 0, please just pick him up, at least for bench depth.
Yes. Absolutely. No, I'm with you on Shaheed there. My second player here has an asterisk next to it because it's only if Keenan Allen does not play. If he does not play, start Odunze. The connection between him and Caleb Williams, we've seen and a gradual increase from Caleb Williams' play every single week. Threw for over 300 yards this past week. He looked significantly better in the passing offense and able to supply fantasy relevant receivers like we all thought he would in week one. He's there. It just took him a couple weeks. If Keenan Allen can't go again, I know he got ruled out for week 3. If he can't go again here, I'm all over Odunze. If he can go, I think it's a toss-up because it depends on if they come out and say Keenan Allen's gonna be on a snap count. I know it's heel. That's not easy to come back from. I mean, that's like once you're back in game speed getting hit, that's like a unique kind of injury that's not, you can't test that in practice without, he's going to be non-contact, right? So I just think if Keenan Allen doesn't play, Odunze, I think, is must start. This Bears offense likes to take some deep shots. Odunze is their deep shot guy. DJ Moore is not. And I feel confident that he's going to have 3 or 4 catches of at least 15 plus yards and with some more in there as well. I like Odunze a ton here.
Yeah, no, I like Odunze too, especially if the Bears are just going to pass the ball 50 times a game, 40 to 50 times a game. It's kind of giving me vibes of Joe Burrow's rookie year when their O-line was so bad.
Yep.
And they just had to throw the ball 50 times a game. I mean, Joe Burrow, before he tore his ACL, was on pace to throw like 42 times a game as a rookie. Could definitely see Caleb Williams just being thrown in the fire saying, good luck with the bad O-line, just make something happen.
Yeah.
And if you're throwing the ball 42 times a game and you're Rome Odunze and Keenan, even if Keenan Allen's playing, he's getting 7 to 8 targets.
Yes.
So he's definitely a viable flex.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And also kind of pairing with that, DeAndre Swift's inability to run so far. I mean, he has been, nothing short of terrible. And the offensive line is not good, right?
But, I mean, they have the worst O-line. They have to have the worst O-line in the league. I don't know the PFF grades. I don't even care what the PFF grades.
Yeah, throw them out the window. Yeah.
It's either them or the Patriots because Jacoby Brissett last Thursday was getting obliterated. So it's one of the two.
Yeah. Well, I remember, the Patriots are starting Caden Wallace at left tackle, who was a right tackle at Penn State his entire career and was a very mediocre collegiate right tackle. And you switched him to be a more difficult blindside left tackle and elevated him to the NFL. I mean, yeah, no,
for and like an immobile quarterback.
Yes.
It's just not. It's not going well.
Yeah. But no, I do. I like Odunze because Swift cannot run the ball. He's had 1 rush for over 8 yards all season. He's averaging, I think, like under 2 yards per carry this season. They're not running the ball. And I think that was evident this year or this past week, right? And when Caleb Williams was throwing for 350 yards. Okay. Yeah. No, your game plan is not to run the ball. Your game plan is to throw the ball. If Keenan Allen doesn't play, Rome Odunze's, he might be a lock for double-digit targets. So I love Odunze here. I think a matchup against the Rams is also good. The Rams offense just proved they're going to put up points no matter what. Doesn't matter who they have playing on offense. The Stafford Stafford and McVay connection is going to put up points. So I think they might even have to chase the game a little bit. So I like Odunze here.
Yeah, no, I definitely do. Yeah, I definitely like Odunze there as well.
All right.
Okay, so my second person, it's going to be Deontay Johnson. Andy Dalton looked unbelievable last week. He gets to play my Bengals. My Bengals are struggling bad. So their defense looks abysmal. They made Jaden Daniels look like Dan Marino mixed with Lamar Jackson. And I think Jaden Daniels is great, but I don't think he's as good as he was last night. I think it's just one of the worst defensive performances maybe of the 21st century.
Dan Marino and Lamar Jackson is a combination I didn't think I would ever hear. I'm not disagreeing with.
That last throw was one of the best throws I've actually ever seen.
No, I was on the phone with Zemo and one of our buddies and said, like, as I'm on the phone, I was like, that might be one of the best. That might be like if Anthony Richardson didn't make that one throw to Alec Pierce, that's like a lock for throw of the season.
You could also argue that throw is better because of the timing in the game.
Yes, and I know I completely
maybe not. I mean, obviously, like the Anthony Richardson
was to win the game. Yeah, that was to win the game.
Yeah, it was to win the game. It was. I wasn't even upset because it was like that was such a good throw that you can't even get upset.
No, you can't. Yeah,
you just tip your hat and you just try to move on. But I really like Deontay Johnson this week. I really do think the Bengals bounce back this week against the Panthers. I know they stink, but I know they stink. If they lose to the Panthers, we might as well tank for Travis Hunter, but that'd be awesome. But yeah, I think Deontay Johnson, potential negative game script this week. He looked great last week. He had 14 targets for 8 catches, 122 yards, and a touchdown. 26 PPR points this last week. He's projected for 15 this week. I could see him getting there without a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like Deontay Johnson this week. I don't like him if Bryce Young gets back in the lineup, but I love him if Andy Dalton's in the lineup.
Yeah, I think Andy Dalton's got to be playing. There's no way you bench him after what he just did. I mean, against the Raiders there.
Yeah.
I love Deontay Johnson as well. I actually in one of my leagues had Deontay Johnson and Demarcus Robinson for the Rams, and had a feeling I picked Demarcus Robinson up. I have AJ Brown in this league, so I needed to start somebody, and said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to put last second put Deontay Johnson in. It didn't. I won by enough that it didn't matter. But either way, I love Deontay Johnson. There's no Adam Thielen this week either, which I think is important because Andy Dalton began to throw the ball to Xavier Leggett a little bit more. Yeah, but a little bit more. But Deontay Johnson is the clear-cut wide receiver one in this offense. Bengals secondary really struggled to get off the field on third down. I just think that Bengals secondary is not playing well at the moment. I mean, they have potential to be good down the stretch, but not playing well at the moment. This is a perfect time and a perfect matchup in which Deontay Johnson is going to have 10 to 15 targets and probably 8 catches. So I love the Deontay Johnson play there. Going to my third here. My third is somebody we've been on a little bit here. In this past week, he had a good week against your Bengals. It's Brian Robinson, and I think that this situation kind of is aligning. It's similar to Odunze in that which an injury is allowing his workload to just be through the roof, and we've seen it with Odunze. I think we're going to see it now with Brian Robinson. Austin Eckler stayed in Virginia and did not fly to Arizona. The rest of the team flew to Arizona. Eckler's still in Virginia with concussion protocol. That tells me he's not playing this week. I mean, I think that's like pretty clear, especially with concussion. If you can't fly and you have to go through the 5 stages of approval in a week, he's not playing. And Brian Robinson, like their roster, like with Eckler going down, Jeremy McNichols is not going to take touches from Brian Robinson. I love the matchup here. I also think that we just saw what happened to the Cardinals on the ground against the Lions. I understand that's the Lions, but Brian Robinson runs hard, and there's just a whole different threat with Jane Daniels as your quarterback too, in which Brian Robinson has a lot more opportunities. I think he's almost a lock to get in the end zone this weekend, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he goes for 80 plus yards too.
Yeah, no, I love Brian Robinson this week, especially you know what's the funny about the NFL? You can never predict the game script. So if we're on somebody, it's probably because we think the game's going to go one way, kind of like the Pollard one last week.
Or Zamir White.
Yeah, Zamir White. We didn't think that we didn't think that Andy Dalton was going to throw for 315, 3 touchdowns and no picks. So that's kind of like the other fun part, like behind the scenes of fantasy. You're kind of also predicting game scripts of what you think. I think that's like another fun part about it. Like even though we're wrong on that one, we were right on a couple other ones. So that's kind of like the fun part about it. But no, I really like Brian Robinson this weekend. For sure.
Well, I think between Brian Robinson and Devin Singletary too, to me, knock on wood here because I'm going to get burned after I say this, is that to me, their game script, like they're not game script dependent because of how much receiving upside they have. Yeah. Typically not Brian Robinson, but with no Austin Eckler, I'm assuming this week. I mean, I think he does, in that if you're chasing the game, they're going to have 5 catches in which you don't need to do anything on the ground. If you have 5 catches for 30 yards, you have 30 yards on the ground. Cool. You're at 11 points already. And there's way more, upside there. So I think, and then obviously if you're winning, you positive game script there. So I think those 2 guys are game script kind of proof. And then I also think that with the Bears with Odunze, I don't see a situation in which the Rams don't put up 20 plus points, in which the Bears are going to have to throw the ball. And if the Bears are going to put up 20 points, it's not coming from the rushing game. I can promise you that.
Dude, I don't know. I actually want to look this up just for the sake of just for my mental sanity. There's no way that we've ever seen a team average like less than 3 yards a carry through 3 weeks in the NFL. I mean, they're atrociously bad.
So
Bears.
DeAndre Swift, I just pulled it up,
Yep.
1.8 yards per carry this year. That's including a 20-yarder. So he broke a 20-yarder. And if you take that carry away, he is averaging just over 1 yard per carry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The Bears are second to last, 3 yards a carry. Raiders, Zamir White, 2.8 yards a carry. It's not good. Doesn't help out young quarterback. But
no.
again, we love Odunze this week. That's the reason.
Yes.
Third guy is Zach Moss.
Mm.
I think Zach Moss could have a positive game script this week. Definitely. Again, same thing with the Deontay Johnson thing. If we look at the spread, I think Bengals are projected by 5. Vegas is thinking Bengals with a positive game script. So Zach Moss last week in a trailing game script had 12 carries.
Yep.
I think Chase Brown looked great. But I think what they want to do is have Zach Moss kind of run between the tackles, kind of be their guy. He got that late touchdown last week to put him at 20.7 points. He had 5 receptions last week. I think this is a game where he gets 15 to 20 touches just because of a positive game script.
Yeah, no, I love Zach Moss there. I also think that kind of what I was just talking about with Singletary and Brian Robinson and being like not game script dependent. I don't think Zach Moss is either. We just saw him in a completely negative game script. Even if you take away the garbage time touchdown, he had 14 points. I'll take that. I mean, that's a good week. So I think he's not game script dependent, but if you give him a positive game script, he ran really well through in between the tackles last week. I thought
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I mean, if you're going to give him 15 plus carries, I think he's going to flirt with 100 yards this week. And against not even mentioning this, Carolina Panthers rushing defense is atrocious. Like Zamir White was bad last week. Their rushing attack was bad. I think that might be the Raiders. This Carolina rushing defense is atrocious. And I think the Bengals, even though they're a pass first, pass second, run third team, I still think that they're going to exploit that this year or this week.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you're right. Especially if you went 0 RB, I would fire up Zach Moss this week. I think he's a good start.
Yeah, if you went 0 RB and you have Brian Robinson and Zach Moss this week,
I was thinking this when we were doing the starts this week. If you went 0 RB this year, you know how every year it's like, well, sometimes 0 RB is great, sometimes it's not. If you didn't draft Saquon early, kind of the 0 RB thing wouldn't be working bad for you. Like if you hit on Dobbins or even like later, like an Aaron Jones later, a Pollard later. Yeah.
Like a David Montgomery range.
Yeah.
Like Demon's had a touch. I mean, he's a touchdown in all 3 weeks. That's not going to sustain. Probably not. But
could he beat CMC's record?
Jamal Williams about did it. Like,
yeah, sure.
So
and David Montgomery's better than Jamal Williams was.
A lot better than Jamal Williams was.
Remember when they got rid of Jamal Williams? We're like, what are they doing? And then Jamal Williams became washed in like half a year. And then David Montgomery's been amazing.
Yeah. Well, for a second, I was like, yeah, what are we doing? And then we brought in David Montgomery and I was like, oh, like this dude ran for 4.5 yards per carry behind the Bears offensive line. And we've talked about that plenty already, but like
that's not good.
Like he should have won like MVP for that.
Yeah, it was funny. I listened to a podcast and they were talking about some teams. Like if I'm trying to think of like a terrible team, they said like if Dave Canales could get to the Panthers to like 6 wins, he should win Coach of the Year because of how bad they are.
Oh yeah, like I mean, if Andy Dalton takes that team to 6 wins, he should be in the MVP conversation.
And if the Jags win 4 games this year, it'll be a miracle because whatever we saw was insane. Speaking of negative game scripts this week. I like Travis Etienne. I think Travis Etienne could go off this week as well. I'm just throwing a name in there.
Yeah.
In a negative game script, he still had 70 rushing yards. So,
yeah. Now a lot of those were like at a time
garbage.
Shouldn't even been in the game.
Insane. It's like malpractice.
Yes, it literally is. But hey, whatever. Doug Peterson, you do you. I mean,
there's a lot of great running backs and wide receivers this week. I know we named 6 of them, but I mean. NFL is just, the more data we actually look into, the kind of the easier this gets. Like even when we're wrong, the data and like the odds are in our favor, and I'll take that every time.
Well, yeah, like even like the Jerome Ford 2 weeks ago, we're wrong on Jerome Ford. He averages 9 yards a carry. Okay, if you told me coming into that week he's going to average 9 yards a carry and he's not going to get injured. There's no way I'm ever not starting him, right? So I think, as we get more and more data, and we've seen it already, Rasheed Shaheed playing up against an Eagles secondary that is really susceptible to giving up long touchdowns. He should have had probably two.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so no, I'm right there with you. But those are 6 guys for this week. I know the last week was we had a couple unfortunate ones. I know we were kind of just talking about that, but those are our 6 guys this week. We have Singletary versus the Cowboys. We have Odunze versus the Rams. Brian Robinson against the Cardinals. Zach Moss against the Panthers. Rasheed Shaheed again against the Falcons. Don't worry, he's bouncing back this week. And Deontay Johnson against the Bengals. Had all the analysis here today. We're going to be back every week with 6 players. We might even start incorporating some players to sit. If you are, I would recommend sitting Rob Gronkowski if he's on your team. Wouldn't start him this week, or Tony Romo, just as an FYI. But
Hey,
no,
maybe Tom Brady. He's getting better in the booth.
no, he is getting better, which is good.
Yeah.
Well, I think his issue, kind of my last point here. I know we're getting a little long and we're not even talking about fantasy anymore, but like Brady, I think his issue is that like he understands the game too well.
Yep.
In which for him to sit there and not break it down in the sense of like, I mean, just stuff that's way over 99.9% of the viewers' heads is so difficult because that's all he's done his entire life. So like, he's like balancing of like, okay, I can't talk about it too much. I can't dumb it down so much. He's trying to like balance that. And Romo's done a great job, I think, despite glazing Mahomes. I think he does a great job at analyzing the game.
Yeah.
But I think Brady will get there. It just is going to take like.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think I loved Brady last week. He was getting like fired up with all the Cowboys like pre-snap penalties. He was like, come on. I love that. I think that's like what makes people relate to him.
Yes. I mean, he's just a passionate football guy.
Yeah.
So
it's like when you watch the Manning cast and Peyton Manning's calling timeout, like he's getting into it. Like that's why people love watching those guys.
Yeah, you'd think Manning was running down the sideline trying to call timeout because he's out of breath, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I'm right there with you. But we'll close this here. We also have the NFL just chat just about the last 2 weeks. I mean, we touched on some teams a little bit in this, but kind of fantasy purposes only for the most part in this episode. We also have an NFL chat episode just walking through the week 2 and week 3 recap that's being posted as well. So make sure you guys go check that out. And we'll have more weekly content. As always, make sure you guys go check out the other social medias, the Instagram, the TikTok, the Twitter, everything, or the X, everything. Other than that, though, this has been the Sports Geeks podcast. They play, we talk. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.